Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to talk about grafting pears and apples. So I've done a lot of videos on grafting pears and apple on the channel, and so if you haven't seen it, check it out, browse the channel. I've also got a lot of questions about grafting pears and apples, and today we are going to answer all that. The first question that I get the most is, when is the best time to graft pears and apple trees? Pears and apple trees are very forgiving, so you can graft them from when they're dormant all the way up into springtime. I've also done it in summertime, and it still works pretty well. But it's recommended that you do it the time when the trees are starting to wake up, so the buds are starting to form. That is usually the best time. But for me, I always do it during the winter time when the trees are sleeping. So you can see all those bags right there. You see those Ziploc bags? Those are the ones that I've done a few months ago. Right now it's February 26th, and those grafts have been done since probably December. And so you can do grafting probably in December if you want to, depending on where you are. We're in Texas here, so December is not too crazy cold, but we do get freezes, and those freezes are fine. You can still graft them. So let me show you some of the grafts that I've done during the winter time, and they are already starting to put out buds. You see here? The reason I put these bags on top is that it does keep the branches nice and warm on the inside, but it also keeps it from, kind of like drying out, because sometimes you have those cuts. You can wrap it with those grafting tape if you want to, but I find that these Ziploc bags work the best for me. And it's just a great little thing. It just keep everything sort of like in a dome. And you can see my whole tree, everything is probably still sleeping. But within here, you see these buds are starting to form right here. They're much earlier than everything else because it's really nice in there. So let me show you a few more. These are all different varieties. So you can see here, right here, you see? The buds are starting to kind of swell and popping out. You see there's some green already. And then on this side, I have a different one, another graft, you see? There's some bud, it's already forming leaves, you see? There's some right here and some right over there. So the leaves are already starting to form. And then there's a few here on my shinko tree, and same thing, you see? The buds are starting to pop, you see that? There's some green already forming. And all of them are the same. See, with that one over there too. You see? The leaves, they're already coming out. And so the dome, which is the bag, gives us a really nice warm space for them to begin. And so it does take, the graft takes on pretty well. And so again, the answer to your question, when's the best time, is anytime the tree is dormant all the way up into spring. And if you want to, you can actually do it in the summertime, and it still will work. So pears and apples are super easy. Okay, so the second question is, what is the advantages of grafting? So there are many. So we'll go and talk about a few. The first one is that you can get different varieties to help with the cross-pollination. So some pear varieties need cross-pollination from another pear variety in order to produce or create the fruits. And so instead of buying multiple trees where you don't have space, you can graft multiple varieties onto one tree, and that takes care of the pollination. And on top of that, it also saves you a lot of space because you don't have to grow multiple trees if you don't have a big yard. So that's the first advantage. The second advantage is that sometimes your tree is not ready to produce. Let's say you bought a tree from a nursery, or you planted some from seed. I have a few. Those are actually air laid, but I do have one that was grown from seed. And when you grow them from seed, they do take a long time to fruit. And so if you want them to fruit faster, graft a mature branch onto them, and then they will fruit faster. So I have a tree that is a few years old. It's in a pot. It's really tiny, but it produces fruits every year. So let me show you that one. So here is a tree that I grew from seed, and as you can see, there's a bunch of grafts going on over here. So I just added some new ones. Look at this, guys. Look at that. The dome already helping the leaves grow. You see that? The rest of the tree is still sleeping. But this one, you see that? The leaves are already coming out. Same with this here. Look at that. So that dome generates a lot of heat, and it helps the branch grow quicker, and also it helps everything start to flow so that it can take faster. And so I love using these Ziploc bags because they work well. They keep the branches from drying out, but also it keeps it, helps it grow leaves faster. That means the union would take much faster. And so this tree here, I grew it from a seed, and as you can see, every single branch is a graft, and I'm also training it. You see, I'm training these here to grow outward so that it could create like a circular pattern outward and not upward and all into each other. And so it's a nicely shaped tree that looks pretty cool, and it's really small. It's inside, I think this is a 7 or 10 gallon, something like that. But it fruits, this tree fruited last year, the year before that, and it will fruit this year. They all have different varieties onto it, and because the tree is so small, this is an experimental tree. I usually don't let it fruit too much because it cannot hang on to that many. But it's really nice to see that a small tree this size, or some tree that you can grow from seed for a few years, can produce fruits by grafting. And so that is the advantage of grafting. Okay, the third reason why grafting is so nice is, for example, if you grow a variety of pear or apple, and then along the way you decided that, man, I don't really like this. It doesn't taste good. This is not to my liking. I don't want this tree anymore. And instead of just trashing the whole tree, dig it up, chop it down, kill it or whatever, you can actually chop it back and graft another variety onto it that you may like, and so you don't have to start over. So let's say I have this tree right here and I don't really like it anymore. I can just go find another variety of a pear that I like, chop this down to whatever size you want, graft something else onto it, and then you get new fruit varieties that you like. So that's probably one of the most important reason for grafting. You can switch out varieties that you don't like anymore, or you can just put a whole bunch of varieties onto them, just like my trees here. They all have about 5, 6, sometimes 7. That one probably has 10 varieties, and you can buy scions online. That they cost like $5 each, and then with shipping, and then you get different varieties of pear shipped to you, and now you can graft it onto your pear and then get varieties that you really, really want, and then you have a whole bunch of different varieties that you really, really like. And on top of that, it does help with the pollination too. And so that is probably one of the most important reasons. Instead of starting over, you can just graft and get something new that you like. Okay, one more reason that grafting is such a great thing, and it's pretty much related to what I just mentioned earlier. So let's say you grew a pear and somehow your pear died. And most pears that you buy from nurseries and stuff like that, they're grafted onto a very strong rootstock. So if something happens to the pear that you bought, the rootstock is usually still alive, and it will sprout the original variety, that whatever that was, like a European pear, for example. This one here is a grafted tree, but the rootstock here is a European pear. And so let's say something happened, animal ate it, it broke, the wind blew at it or something like that, and the whole top is dead. And instead of buying a new tree, the rootstock is still alive, and the rootstock is actually the strong variety that gives your tree better chances of survival and all that stuff. let the branches grow from the rootstock, like these here. You see this? These are shoots from the original rootstock. And you can graft back the tree that you lost so that you don't start over. Or you can just buy a new tree if you want to. So that's one of the reasons that another reason that grafting is pretty nice. And so here you can see I have multiple offshoots that came from the original tree. And so here I'm air layering it. I'm air laying this here so that I can get roots to grow, and then I would grow that into a brand new tree. And I have multiple trees, that came from a strong rootstock that I can grow and graft again back onto later to get the varieties I like. And one other thing that someone stated when I mentioned this is the way that I get new trees to grow, they're like, well, you know what? If your offshoot is coming out from the ground, the offshoot should already have roots growing. And that is not always true. You see, sometimes the rootstock comes out of the parent tree. They don't have root on them. Even if you dig all the way down there, there's no roots to these shoots. Sometimes they may, but I've never seen one that does. And also, if you dig down there to try to get the offshoots out, you could potentially harm the roots of your original tree right here. And so that is the reason why I don't just dig down there to try to get it. I rather just, try to root it and then cut it off and then plant it in pots like that. And then as it grows, I would graft different varieties onto it and get a bunch of pear trees to grow. Or you can give that to your friends or family or something like that, and they'll have a nice tree with a strong rootstock that you have something else grafted onto it that you like. So those are the reasons or the advantages of grafting. So now let's go ahead and do some grafting so that you can see how it's done. It's so easy, and you can practice with offshoots. This is how I usually do it. I let those offshoots grow, and I use those for practicing graft. Because if you fail at practicing the grafts, cut it off. And then next year you may get a few more and then practice again. So you can start up here, and if that doesn't work well, go down lower. That doesn't work well, go down lower, go down lower. And so by the time you're practicing with all of these here, you'll be an expert at grafting already. Okay, so let's go ahead and graft this tree right here, and I will show you the exact process and how it's done and how easy it is. Okay, so here I have some branches that I pruned from my larger tree. And when you prune your tree, you can actually save these here. You can just cut it down, put it in the fridge, and those branches will last up to probably a year. I've had some scions that I kept for 8 months, and I grafted them, and they work just fine. So when you cut your branches off your tree, save them, and then you can use it for grafting. Okay, so here are the branches that I saved and I cut off. And so now what we need to do is find a branch where the diameter is the same as the branch you're trying to graft. That's important. It gives it the best success if you have this size the same. Okay, I have a branch that I selected, and that is the same size as what I'm trying to graft. And so now we need to prepare it and get this ready for grafting. Okay, so first we are going to cut off this branch right here, because I want to graft it right around here. So you need a grafting knife. So make sure you get a good sharp knife, because it's easier to work with if you have a good sharp knife. We don't need this node anymore, so we just get rid of that because we want the graft to grow. So we're going to do a whip and tongue method. And then you want to do that similar cut onto the scion. Okay, so now we are going to connect them together. Just like that. And now we need to wrap it up with grafting tape. Okay, and because this branch is slightly larger, so we want to give it a little pressure to kind of like tighten up this area so it can heal. So we're going to use a flat rubber band. And so I'll just cut the rubber band like this. And then we're going to tighten it up. Just enough pressure, not too tight, that you can restrict the water flow. Just like that. And now we are going to put a Ziploc bag over the top. Okay, this is it right here. We are all done. And make sure you label it. And I love using these tags right here because it doesn't fade over the years and it'll last a long time. So if you need to know where these are, I will point you to where to get them. And if you want to, and it is recommended because this is a grafted branch, cut off any other branches from another variety, just to leave it by itself. Okay, so that is pretty much it for this video. Grafting is amazing. There's just so many benefits, and once you start doing this, you're gonna add so many more different varieties to your garden. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.